Gender equality or balance seems the right thing to do. It also seems a global trend. But we are here to talk about a policy debate beyond a Me Too movement, beyond an inspiring speech or a rally about women's empowerment. We are talking here about policies, government policies that refine, maybe even redefine, and definitely upscale women's role in the public, economic, and decision-making spectrum. Allow me to welcome Her Excellency Mona Al Marri, Vice President of the UAE Gender Balance Council, and of course Mr. Ankhel Gurria, Secretary General of the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD. Welcome both. Let me start with you, Your Excellency Mona. In the UAE, you actually have made and went a golden mile into the gender balance. So much has been done. And yet, to cut it short, there are still definitely some barriers. How do you convey that picture of women participating in decision-making politically and in the government?
First, allow me to thank His Excellency and his team and OECD to actually help us also drive this agenda of gender balance in the UAE. And before talking about the barriers or challenges that we, in general, women face, I think let's talk about the positive outcomes that actually has driven the gender balance agenda through achieving gender balance and changing the scene for women's lead in public life. Today, women have more opportunities open to them in society, politics, economy, and even STEM fields, military and police forces. They are present in all fields and all sectors, and they have proved themselves successful and all these opportunities. If we take at the beginning the political participation, which I think is very important. According to the latest statistics, that women represent 24% of women in parliaments worldwide. Yes, it is a small percentage, yet it is an increase since 1995. It was only 11%. An excellent example is the recent announcement that took place here in the UAE by the President of the UAE, His Highness Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed, announcing the 50% quota in our Federal National Council, the Parliament of the UAE. And this actually, which will take place actually end of this year, and I think we are to witness this leap in women's participation, political participation in the UAE. And this will affect also the political and social scene in the UAE. Now, if we talk about, or we move to the economic participation, which is also another important point I would like to highlight. According to the World Bank, latest edition of Women, Business and the Law report, 65 countries have done 87 reforms when it comes to boosting women participation in economy. And if we look also if we look at a good model here in the UAE, a working model, we have more than 23,000 businesswomen with an investment worth of 50 billion UAE dirhams. And we have many SMEs that support women young entrepreneurs when it comes to education, how they generate funds for their investments, promoting them through different social platforms, traditional media, making sure that they are a sustainable investments. Yes, we have challenges in some countries, and these countries faces challenges like job opportunities, equal wages, political participation. But we should have that hope and give them that hope that there is good practices and the fundamental changes are possible, and positive change and opportunities are in the rise. I'll give you another example of how today in the UAE we have created a good working model that can be shared with our region. We know that certain countries do not believe in an external change. They want it to come from within, from their own countries. And I believe that the UAE has that good model that could be implemented in other countries within the region. That would give a different perspectives because we share the same cultures, same values, and same maybe demographics. So we can implement that model also when it comes to creating a good working model for the region.
Your Excellency, your motto, the motto of OECD is better policies for better lives, all right? There's so many trends going on now globally, but when it comes to gender balance, what are the most important or effective, if you may say, trends globally? And what Her Excellency touched upon is like, how do you turn the global into local? And this is a very crucial issue when it comes to women rights or gender balance here.
The trend is unstoppable. The question is, how fast is each country going, and how are they going about the implementation? For example, we're talking about women in politics. You know, we have an OECD toolkit. This is a practical guide for mainstreaming and implementing gender equality in public life, equality in public life. Okay, now. We are very proud and we congratulate this as an absolute achievement here, that now the minister has just announced 50% women in parliament. Now, we all would have wanted that to happen naturally, but it didn't. It doesn't happen naturally. 40% of women in Norway in boards of directors. Did that happen naturally? No, it had to be legislated. In Norway, in Germany, 30% of women in boards of directors had to be legislated. In Mexico, 50% of women in parliament a few years ago, it had to be legislated. So sometimes you have to use the legislation in order to force things that are not happening naturally because of the culture. Why are women so underrepresented in STEM? In disciplines, in science, technology, and engineering and mathematics? Well, basically, because there are stereotypes that start at home and then continue.
Can we share the rate? You just shared backstage with us about how the representation of women in the STEM.
First of all, there's a big deficit of STEM careers in general, including with the men. But then, out of the people who graduate, only about a third are women. So basically, you have a big deficit. And what happens? They are the careers that are more demanded, where there's more, the companies are complaining that they don't have enough supply, and at the same time they pay better. But who told these girls that they were not supposed to be engineers? Somebody at the house, maybe. Maybe the mother, maybe the father. Maybe the whole way in which the thing was discussed at home. But what happens, in the case of Mexico, we have this example. We asked 100 of the most famous and most successful ladies who were in STEM careers to then go to the primary schools, to then go to the secondary schools, not to universities, that's too late. When the children, when the girls are finding their way and saying, what can I be? And then they see this woman who's an astronaut, or who is an astronomer, or who is a physicist or a geneticist, and they say, you can be like me. And they say, yes, I can be like her, why not? And then you change your whole aspiration, and then when you make the choice, you say, yes, I would like to be like that, and then you choose. So they're very simple. This doesn't cost anything, by the way. It doesn't cost a big university anything. They're just the ones that are already in the business, you know, to try to inspire. And they were so excited, these women, successful women, they were so excited to be doing this because they saw the response. So now they're changing the profile of Mexico, and there are going to be more people in things like that. But basically, what you have is it's absolutely the case now when you have more careers, more women in university, clearly as competent as any other ever. So the question is, how does one create an atmosphere of demand? First of all, the demand is there. By the way, the demand is completely, in most of the OECD countries at least, it is gender blind. That means if people have the competence, they will hire, whether it's a woman or a man. And
this is good to know, like
yes,
the demand.
But the question is, it's not always the case, because again, it is in the culture. So we change the laws, yes, we change the regulations, we make it possible, we open up the institutions, we open up the universities, but the question is, are we changing the culture? And in this region of the world here, there are many challenges still in terms of changing the culture, but I remember that with the UAE government, we said, okay, the gender balance guide, this is a kind of how-to.
This is the picture you wanted, and we're going to clap for it.
So,
We're so proud of this.
in this 2011 and then 2017, you know.
And to be honest, he shares this, and he does this thing not only in the UAE, he does it wherever he goes, and I'm so happy for that.
We're big champions, and my team here is, you know, Tatiana is here in the front row. My chief statistician, who is the one who's getting the SDGs, you know, becoming a reality. This, would you please stand? There's this, you know, Martin Duran, my chief of staff, Gabriela Ramos, who's another champion, and my chief economist, Laurence Boone. So all my chiefs of chiefs, you know, they're all ladies at the OECD.
Okay, we need to give you a clap now. Your Excellency, Mona.
And my chief with my wife.
Okay.
You know,
that's the big one.
and eye surgeon. Yeah.
Okay, we're all chiefs at home. Yeah. Right?
Ministers at home.
Ministers at home. There's something here we're touching upon, which is, I would call it sustainability. Like, okay, there is a will. There are legislations, brilliant one, like the one you just mentioned, of 50% of the federal parliament should be women.
The equal wage, which is also recently as a law that was announced in the UAE.
Exactly, but then how do we close the circle with all the challenges His Excellency just mentioned? Like, how do we make it not an exception and not a driving force, a self-driving force, and included in the society and culture?
I think there are three important tools when gender balance comes. They are the three important components of this file. One is the support of government. Sure. And the influence that governments have on its community. So if a community sees its leadership supports and promote gender balance and women's empowerment, I think this by itself will not only send a clear message to its people, but more precisely to its women.
True.
It will break stereotypes, one. And it will make women more inspired and motivated to give more and participate in the development and growth of their countries. Another important tool, I think, is the global enabler, such as, and their efforts, such as OECD, UN, the IMF, the World Bank. Those international organizations drive the the gender balance agenda across the globe. So it is very important to have collaborations with these organizations. And as we've just mentioned, an important collaboration had an outcome of the Gender Balance Guide, which focuses on policies and driving gender policies in work environments. With IMF, we're working on the gender budgeting, which is also another important initiative that would give a different perspective of gender balance, not only in the UAE, but also in the region. The third and final component is international reports, which focus on gender balance and equality. And I think that's something that in the UAE, the first objective we were given as a Gender Balance Council when it was announced is the objective of the UNDP Inequality Index. You have to be among the top 25 countries in this report.
Okay. So setting benchmarks and targets.
It is to increase competitiveness. It is to focus and build the awareness and the importance of this file. And based on that, internally in the UAE, the government has set an indicator within the national KPIs for our governments, which is the gender balance indicator, and that's really helped also promote this competitiveness and the gender equality across all government departments and on a federal level. So such components will always help set such a high expectation when it comes to gender balance file.
Your Excellency, just to wrap it up, I'm coming back to you with a final question, but this is a question I insist on asking.
Yes.
As a woman, as a mom, as a journalist, and as a moderator.
I'm not a journalist.
No, me.
I don't want to be a journalist.
Uh-oh, is that good?
I'm not sure.
Should
During
I be
this
happy?
time, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing.
All right. My question is, His Excellency touched upon a very important point. Where does the stereotype start from? Is it from the house? You're a mom.
Yes.
You're a political, you made it up to the higher leadership. I remember seeing you the first time I came to Dubai, and I was like,
Long time ago.
Long time ago. I'm proud. But then I was like, okay, that's an example, a very good example. How do you pass on this success, all right? Or let me say this qualities of leadership and gender balance, deep belief to your children and to the women working with you?
Okay, thank you very much. It is an interesting question, but my answer might be totally different. It's a personal story. So I come from a family that has 12 children. And I'm ranked maybe the third from, the youngest. So it's a big family. And my parents were not educated, both of them. But they made sure that they have, the best education for their children. And it didn't matter whether you were, a boy or a girl. All of you should have good education. And I think what made the UAE, not only my family, it is part of our DNA. It's the values, the human values that we've been raised on. I mean, it's loyalty, it's peace, it's tolerance, it's humanity, it's all these values that made us who we are today. It is within, it's within our DNA. It is the government and the leadership vision. I mean, this year we are celebrating the Year of Tolerance. The Year of Tolerance, it's because we have more than 200 nationalities living on this, platform happily, with no issues. These are the messages that we want to send out. And I think what I want to pass on is the values, whether it's for my children or my colleagues, men and women. Stick to our values, because that's what makes really a great leader.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Excellency, that's it. We're wrapping up. You need to go, they told me, but I wanted to ask you one question. What do you think?
Listen, the minister was talking about relying on international organizations. What do we do? What's our role there? What we do is give you a mirror. And then we say, look at yourself in the mirror. Do you like what you see? You know. But we also add a few other elements in the mirror. We write what everybody is doing about that in the world. And then we don't tell the UAE what you got to do with the UAE. You are the ones who know better what to do. But what we do is lay out
Successful examples.
the successes, but also the failures. They're
Yes,
also
sure.
very valuable.
Sure.
What
Lessons.
costs more, what costs less, what's faster, what worked, what, you know. Maybe the case of Finland is not so relevant for the UAE, but maybe a case of Chile or Mexico or Colombia may be closer to the type of issues and the type of challenges that we have. So we try to make it as relevant as possible. Then, of course, from there, there's a question of a policy choice, and then the political, and then the legislative, and then eventually implementation. And then on the implementation, we come back. You know, we are not there in the political side. We leave it like that, and then when the country takes the decision and goes forward, like the minister just described, then of course we try to help with the implementation, again, with the best practices.
Right.
So this work of relying on and working with the international organizations, I believe is a smart choice, because what we are here for is to work with you, but also to work for you. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Your Excellency Mona Al Marri, Vice President of the UAE Gender Balance Council, of course, thank you so much. And also Your Excellency Ankhel Gurria, thank you so much, the Secretary General of OECD. Thank you.